Tilder!
This is the Godox CL10. It's an RGB only light specifically for your YouTube background. Comes in at approximately $65. There's no flicker. You can actually power it with a USB battery bank. Works with a new Godox Light app that's way better than the old one. Do I recommend it? Yes, if you are a YouTuber looking to add some color to your background. I would not recommend it if you're a narrative filmmaker, as it's primarily made out of plastic. You'd be better served with an RGB panel or a pocket RGB light.
Done. Roll that intro.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? You're watching Too Long Didn't Read Filmmaker, where the answers comes first, the reasons come last, but we're constantly and always still learning. So today we're going to find out whether or not this Godox CL10 is going to be the right solution for you and your overall YouTube setup. And I want to thank PerGear for sending this out to me so I can provide you with my review today. Now, coming in at approximately $60 to $65, you're going to basically get the light, a power brick, and a nice long USB-C cord, as well as a remote control to actually control the light. Because there's only really one button on here, which is just to turn it on. So if you actually want to change the colors or shoot some effects, you have to either use the remote control or the new Godox app. Now, this light is basically aimed at beginning YouTubers who are building their very first YouTube setup. And the primary goal is just to splash color in the background. Or if you are doing some product reviews and you basically can shoot some colors at the background, or you can shoot it at the product should you choose. Now, in terms of the design, this is a 10-watt RGB only chip. There isn't actually any daylight or tungsten LED diodes, as you can see here. Paired up with the reflector, this is trying to basically provide the most punch it can in the smallest package possible. So currently right now, I have a Neewer 530 RGB light that's casting the blue. It's not up all the way. I think it's basically at about 70%, but that is a significantly much more powerful LED panel than this little 10-watt RGB light. And in terms of the Bowling P1 over there that's casting the red, that I believe is approximately 8 to 10 watts. I can't quite remember. That's also not exactly at full output. It's only at like about 50%. So PerGear actually sent me 2 of these to upgrade both of these colors, and let's see how well it does. All right, and now I've replaced the Neewer and the Bowling P1 with the Godox CL10s and have the color dialed in. Now you'll notice that the color is quite bright, the red. So if you use the remote over here and you start trying to dim it, you'll notice nothing is happening. And that's simply because of the design of the light. The infrared sensor is actually on the back of the light because it's assuming that you would normally just have it pointing at the wall, and therefore you would be in line of sight with a remote. Well, fear not. Godox actually has a completely new app, and this app is taking a whole lot of hints from Aperture, which I'm finally so happy that Godox did it. So without further ado, I've already set up my group lighting, and I'm simply going to dim that down to about over here, about 14%. That was actually at 100%. But let's say I want to change the color. Let's go to something a little bit more golden or blue or purple or magenta. You can do that simply with your finger, and you just move it around. But let's say you want to go to red and you're not quite getting it. Well, you can actually dial in the number. So if you actually know the numbers here, let's say 0 is actually red. Now the saturation, I want it to be 100%. Boom. You can actually just type it in. And of course, if I wanted to, I can move that cyan color to anything I want. So pretty nice and handy. In terms of the app, they do have stuff like Lee and Roscoe filters, as well as a color picker, which is definitely a fan favorite on the Aperture Citus link. Now the color picker is not all that great because you actually have to take a photo, then enlarge the photo of where you wanted to take a color sample, load that photo in, and then do it. Kind of cumbersome right now, but I'm pretty sure Godox is going to keep working on it. But other than that, the new app is great, and I hope they try to figure out a way to get their older lights to work with this, because so far only the newer lights are able to talk to this app. So Godox, please work on it. Just in case you wanted to know, here are the lux readings from the lights taken from 6 feet away with the camera settings above. Now, while this light is not the most powerful light in the world, chances are if you're buying this, it's because you're planning to actually control the lighting in your YouTube setup, in which case this light is more than enough. Now, if you don't want to really use your smartphone app to control the different color lights, these are the presets that are readily available on the remote itself. Now, this light does come with special effects should you want to use it, and it pretty much has all the ones you're used to, like flashes, RGB parades, candles, fires, TV flicker, all that stuff. It's all pretty standard at this point. The one cool thing is there is a microphone in the back, so if you want to play some music, it will actually respond to the music. So what's the bottom line here? Is the Godox CL10 something you should be thinking about for your overall YouTube kit? Now, I'm constantly saying YouTube, because that's exactly what these lights are. I have a feeling some of you guys might be asking me this specific question. Hey, I remembered that you reviewed the Neewer 530 or 630 RGB lights. Why would I not spend maybe an extra 50 to 60 some dollars, get that panel so I can do a lot more work with it? You're not wrong, but hear me out. If you did just do that, and you're lighting up your YouTube kit or your YouTube setup, but then you go on a shoot and you're like, okay, cool, I got to take these panels with me. So you disassemble everything, you take it with you, you go do your shoot, then you come back, you're going to film another YouTube video, then you put it all up there again. If you have to keep constantly doing that between shoots, that's not going to be necessarily helpful. However, if you are a beginning filmmaker and you're trying to do the YouTube thing as well as doing some client work or shooting your narrative films whatsoever, if you're just starting out, then yes, I would agree with you that you should buy those Neewer panels because you need to make sure your dollar can stretch as far as possible. And as you start making money with your craft with videography, then you can say, hey, I'm done with this whole setting up, tearing down, setting up, tearing down business. I have some money now. I want to make sure those RGB lights are just permanently there so I don't have to bother doing anything. That's where these Godox CL10s are coming in. They're powerful enough just to pop some light into your background. I don't have anything crazy set up here. My ISO is pretty low on my Sony a7S III. I don't actually have it jacked up all the way. That red over there is at like 13 some percent. The blue over there is at 100%. And my Godox SL60 is really not that bright either. I have it at about 62%. So depending on your camera, these lights will be powerful enough for this specific use case. So that's really what the Godox CL10 is for, is basically a permanent YouTube setup. Now, I know you can actually power this with an RGB battery bank. So I guess if you're in a pinch and you're outdoors and you do need to splash some sort of lights for a night scene, sure, you can bring this with you if you don't have a pocket RGB light or you don't have an LED panel. I wouldn't necessarily say that this should be like the thing you should be getting because it is primarily made out of plastic, so transporting it back and forth, you might risk damaging the entire unit. Now, if you're a traveling vlogger, same thing. I wouldn't necessarily travel with this all that much. I guess if this is all you have, sure. But if you know you're going to be using RGB lights for when you're at your Airbnb and you're going to have to light up a little bit of something, I would actually tell you to go get yourself some pocket RGB lights, whether they are the Pilotfly RX1 or the very popular Bowling P1. Those two are great and they're going to do a good job in terms of having those bicolored LEDs because these are just pure RGB LEDs. There isn't any bicolor in there, and if you attempt to use it in such a way, your color rendition will be terrible. And hey, that is it for this week, everybody. If this video has made all the influence in your purchasing decisions, I would truly appreciate it if you check out my Amazon affiliate links down below. Again, this costs nothing extra to you, just gives me a little compensation so I can continue making videos like this for you. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and leave it down below. I will get to them as fast as I can. And until then, like, subscribe, and share, and I'll see you guys in the next one.